It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's a Thursday. It's Wake Up Wyoming. And despite the smoke, I swear I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
You could have just used the shoe from the horse, but okay. I like that. Before I even get on the air, I'm getting well wishes from a couple of people. Chet and Yoder, that's way down southeast Wyoming. I hope your family and friends are safe down there. I saw Sanibel on Fox News last night. Well, my most of my family evacuated to South Carolina. My brother-in-law, my youngest niece, stayed, but they're not on Sanibel. They live center of the state, down below Orlando, in a town called Lake Wales. They're fine. They ended up going. They waited through the storm. Their power went out. Then they went to bed. It's other places that really got hammered hard, Sarasota, Bradenton, around the Tampa Bay area. And then a well-wish from Jim up in Casper. May your turds be smooth today. See, now that's a good thing.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. I will be, and I'll try not to be distracted by watching the ridiculously large television they put in my studio here, just because there's a lot of hurricane information. As the sun rises in Florida, we get to see the damage. Where my family is from, but I no longer have any family on Sanibel and Captiva. That's further down south, and that got a lot of flooding. Those islands were underwater, but not a lot of damage. It's mainly up in the Tampa Bay area. Below Tampa is the town of Bradenton, Sarasota. Those are the ones that really got a lot of the brunt around Venice Beach and so on. So now we have to assess the damage to find out how much was really destroyed. And there were some things, a lot of tornadoes in the storm. There were a lot of tornadoes in the storm. And so we have to go through to find out how much was really damaged, and injuries, things like that, are being checked out right now. There's one entire county called Pinellas County that's closed. Yeah, people evacuated, which is good. Not the entire county, but a lot of people left the county. Good idea. And right now there's so much damage, they have just closed the county, and they're not letting anyone in until they can clear some things out. So I will be looking at that during the course of the morning, but I decided to start your day today just to give you a treat. I mean, just something that I just know will, you know those things that you think about sometimes in the morning, and it just the rest of the day you're just kind of chuckling about it to yourself, and people are wondering why there's that smirk on your face? This is one of those things. It starts by sounding like I'm telling a joke. Kamala Harris's husband and Tim Walz walk into a coffee shop. Doesn't that sound like a joke? Okay, they walk into a coffee shop, but neither of them have their wallets. And if you're thinking, yeah, liberal Democrats, exactly. So they turn to their staff there, and somebody else is going to have to pay. Doesn't that sound like your typical Democrat? So, story here says, breaking 911, Camilla's husband and Tim Walz leave daughter at the counter paying for their food. Oh, God. I think I might have audio from this. Hang on.
I think it's like
Here, you guys go sit. I'll wait for your tea.
All right, you get the tea?
Do you want to take this too?
Yep, I got it.
I'll wait for your tea.
And then here comes the young daughter. Oh, very attractive young lady.
I feel exposed right now.
I feel exposed right now. Everybody's looking at her because and she looks like college age, young college age. So she's reaching for her wallet to pay for these two older liberals who, of course, don't have their wallets. So wouldn't you think, though, if you think about it, Kamala Harris's husband, again, older gentleman and a father, and the same thing for very liberal Tim Walz, older guy, father, governor of a state. If anything, if they walk up to the counter, they should be pulling their wallets out and offering to pay for the people who are with them. Now, taking a look at who's with them, I don't know who everybody is, but there's one young man and there's two young ladies. Again, the two young ladies, one of them is, what did I say was Waltz's daughter, granddaughter, something? I'll go back and look at it for you. Daughter. Okay. She looks about college age. So there's two young ladies that look about college age and a young man that also looks about college age. And if you're someone the age of Tim Walz, you would be the guy who'd be reaching for the wallet going, here, I got this for you. And look, we were all there when we were young and didn't have a lot of money. Oftentimes, the older people who have been around for a while and were successful would help us out and pay for us. But in this case, the old liberals, this would be, you've seen the memes for this. Bernie Sanders and Obama go to lunch, and they both sit there staring at each other, wondering who's going to reach for their wallet to pay for the bill, waiting for the other guy to do it. That's basically what we're seeing here. So let's not forget Kamala Harris's husband and Kamala, and Walz and Kamala are always willing to reach into somebody else's pocket to pay for whatever. This is, I think, the perfect illustration. I mean, absolutely the perfect illustration of what life with them must be like. Now, why wouldn't they have their wallets with them? I do know that in some cases, like when a president, for example, walks into a coffee shop somewhere, usually any politician that walks into a coffee shop is doing it to be seen by the cameras, to make news of it, to try to get votes, right? A president walking into a coffee shop, a lot of times they don't have a wallet with them because as soon as they become president, finances are handled for them. Yeah, all personal finances, staff, stuff like that. So there's a staff member. The president will pay for his food, but it's the staff member who's handling his money for him. So the president doesn't have to do these things. You very rarely find a president walking around with his own personal wallet with cash in there, maybe some credit cards, stuff like that. All of that's turned over to staff, and the staff handles it. But that's not what happened here. Two old liberals walk into a coffee shop, and they make the young college girl pay for it. I will be telling everybody about this from now through next week, at least that long, if not longer. Okay, real quick, now that the hurricane has passed, let's go listen to your typical Florida weather forecast from a local Florida television station.
Okay, here's the forecast. Volcano 350 there for Monday. Global superstorm on Tuesday. We could see maybe about 200 inches of rainfall, wind gusts up to 1,000 miles an hour. Godzilla Wednesday, I'll be honest, I have no idea what's going to happen on that day. After that, though, how about this to finish off the work week? Low humidity, lots of sunshine, with highs in the upper 80s heading into next weekend.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Thursday. So before I get onto some of the local stuff, real quick here, if you just missed the story, which I'll be beating on this for a while because it's just too good. So Kamala Harris's husband and vice presidential candidate Tim Walz walk into a coffee shop. Sounds like a joke? Yeah, and after they get their coffees, which of course is a photo op, they let the press go in first and all of that, then they don't have their money on them. So I'm trying to remember, was it Waltz's daughter, I think, had to step up, and she's like young college age, she looks like, steps up to pay for them. Typical liberals. Two old liberals. They have to get the young college girl to pay for them. Dear God, just write your joke. So, Big Wave writes, come on. Nobody has Apple Pay on their iPhone? See, that's good. They had nothing? Nothing. And you don't have your wallet with. Now, I will admit, When I drive, I don't like sitting on my wallet. And my wallet's not very thick anyway, but I don't like sitting on it. So I'll put it off to the side, like in the door compartment, something like that. I have to remind myself when I get out, no, get your wallet, grab your wallet. And 99% of the time, I do remember it. There's that very occasional time I start to walk to where I'm going to go, and halfway there I go, oh, God, wallet's in the car. It's rare, but it does happen. But I have never turned and said, I forgot my wallet, will you pay for me? Never done that. Red sends me a note. It's so hard to know, speaking of the hurricane, the news hypes this sort of stuff so much, I guess it dropped to a Category 3 before landfall. Okay, now let me just hit you with, Red, what is hype and what isn't, because there was hype involved. What is hype? Well, first off, what isn't? Let's start with that. They knew in advance this was going to be a big storm. The weather forecasters had it right. Got up to a Category 5, stayed there for a while, weakened just a little bit, but then bumped back up to a 5 again. Okay. As it got near the coast, the forecasters were saying in advance that this is going to drop down to probably a Category 3. They knew that in advance because they're weather forecasters. This is what they do. They got it right. So that wasn't hype. They knew what was going to happen. The only big question was exactly where was it going to make landfall, and this thing was wobbling all over the place. So it wasn't until the storm got really close. And making landfall, they consider that when the eye crosses over someplace on the shore, that's making landfall. And that's where it made landfall, where the eye crossed. And so they really couldn't decide that until it got very close. But as far as the category of hurricane that it would be when it hit land, that they got right. They were also, this is where they were curious. I was watching meteorologists out of Tampa, very curious about what the storm surge was going to do for in the Tampa Bay. The reason why is there was storm surge coming in that should have flooded out all of Tampa Bay. But at the same time, because the storm hit below, the eye hit below Tampa Bay, that means the winds were blowing in the other direction. So the storm surge is coming one way, but the winds are blowing the other way. And what was that going to do? Which, thankfully, for Tampa Bay, means the storm surge was not as bad as it could have been. They still had flooding, but it could have been far, far worse. Now, what about below Tampa? It's the right-hand side of the storm where that surge really hit hard. That, we have to find out what happened there, because those guys really got kicked in the teeth. We'll have to just wait and find. Now, here's where it was hype. As the storm was coming toward Florida, you started hearing things like unprecedented, and you're still hearing that. This is unprecedented. We've never had a storm like this. Yes, we have, actually. This hurricane, Hurricane Milton, was not historic unprecedented. When you go back and look at the hurricane records, storms like this have hit the Bay Area before. Okay? There is absolutely no... In fact, when we take a look at how many hurricanes we've had this year, it's still a low number. We did have 3 in a row. I mean, one after the next. Boom, boom, boom. That's rare. It's not unprecedented, but it's rare. Okay, don't often see that happen. In fact, the last storm to hit, see if I got my number here, directly on the Tampa Bay area was 1921. There were other hurricanes before that, and to have 1, 2, 3 punches like that, it's rare. But it does happen, and it has happened before. Not rare, not unprecedented, not unheard of, just doesn't often happen. Okay, so a lot of the hype and in the idea that, this is climate change. And remember, we haven't had that many storms this year or the year before or the year before that. We're still at relatively a low number of storms. But we have had some storms that have hit the same area 3 in a row, have basically hit the same area over and over again, which is what caused a lot of damage. All right. So there's the hype, and then there's not, what isn't hype at all. In fact, again, the way the meteorologists predicted this, it was a storm that did wobble a lot. So predicting exactly where it made landfall was an unknown. But what kind of impact or damage, what category it was going to be, was completely known. Unprecedented? No. Unheard of? No. Unusual? No. And you're going to hear a lot of that. Remember, there was that, here in Wyoming, we had over in the Tetons, the highway that goes, the Teton Pass Highway, that one corner that collapsed this year. And I remember I was telling you about the hype of the news media, that it was going to be catastrophic for Jackson Hole that road is closed, and it wasn't. And it was going to be catastrophic for the employees that work in Jackson and go to Idaho to live because they can't afford to live in Jackson, and it wasn't. All it did was just cause people to have to drive around an area that they normally drive through to save a lot of time. That was it. And nothing catastrophic happened. But your news media has to hype it to make it sound like it's the worst thing that's ever happened ever. It's bad. It deserves our attention. But it is not unprecedented and not the worst thing that's ever happened. Just so you know. All right. I do have some local news on fires and smoke here in the state of Wyoming and some other things we got to cover, which we'll get into next. Coming up on 6:30, local news is up next after local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS, or do what all these other fine folks are doing and just text me using the Wake Up Wyoming app and the chat button. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Watzel. This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Yeah, Red and Casper sends me a note. Thanks, I really appreciate it. Honestly, I just don't trust news sources. You're right not to. I'll tell you why in just a second. Also, Chet and Yoder says, how is it every time the storm is the biggest and worst ever? Well, that's because, remember what I've been saying this since I was 16 years old and on my high school newspaper when they taught me how to do news on my high school paper. And at that time I said, and I'm still saying it to this day, news media does not report news. They report controversy and hype. And when they cannot find it, they will create it. So, I was just telling Miss Mary on the ridiculously large television in my studio here, the Orlando television station had sent a reporter out there's a big lake with downtown Orlando. There's a big lake there. And she was walking around the road that goes around that lake, which is a very pretty area. And the water was about ankle deep, and there was some light debris from some trees. And she's walking around trying to make a big deal out of this. And I'm looking at it thinking it's not. If I was the reporter who was there, I would have, when they turned to me live, I would have said, well, I'm here, and, the water's only ankle deep, and there's a few light tree limbs down, so not a big deal. I don't think we really have anything to show here. So I'll go find something bad that happened somewhere else, but it isn't here. Hey, back to you. And I would have walked off camera. I would have left it at that because there's nothing going on. But this reporter feels the obligation to make it sound bad and really hype it, which is what a lot of news media does. And a lot of politicians will do as well. All right. Couple of things here in Wyoming. Got to give it to, there's one man, a couple of Cowboy State Daily stories. I won't get into all of the detail right now, but one man armed with a hose and weed sprayers and so on defended his home from the elk fire. He and his wife had spent 30 years working on his property, and it's a big, beautiful home. And that elk fire, which is, in fact, while I'm talking to you about it, I'll go see how much contained they have it right now. It wasn't much, but that's been out of control for quite a while. And as it burned toward his house, he knew the fire department would be there to help him, and they did show up, but he couldn't count on them because they're so busy to be there right away. So he staged himself in advance and did a good job at handling it. They now have that fire just 15% contained. It's about over 76,000 acres has burned so far. So that's a good story. Also, firefighters held off the elk fire, which threatened Sheridan's water supply. So if you think about where the fire is, which is just a little north of Sheridan, and the water supply is right up there in the mountains in that area. And as a lot of you know here in Wyoming, a lot of times we'll go ahead and stage an area, say there's a good river running through. and just go ahead and build a reservoir up there and let it build up. You people in Buffalo know exactly what I'm talking about. And so the Taiha area. And so they just build that up as their water supply up in the hills. And then it runs on down to supply the town, which is a lot more difficult when you have a town that's in the flatlands than if there's a mountain behind you and you can just stage the water up there. So, yeah, the Sheridan's water supply, the whole facility up there was in danger, and firefighters got into there and held that back, so good for them. We still have a lot of smoke. I was looking at the smoke map earlier this morning, and it's the same story. Now, I'm about to play for you the extended weather forecast from Day Weather. It's been the same story. We don't have a lot of wind right now, and that's good news and bad news at the same time. The good news is that helps the firefighters, the fact that we're not going to have a lot of wind. So they can get a handle on this. The fires are not being blown all over the place. The bad news is it's not blowing the smoke out. Yeah, so which one do you want, really? So the smoke just continues to gather, and there's still areas around Wyoming where there's a warning up for people who may have respiratory problems. There's just a lot in the air right now, still gathering and not going anywhere and just piling up. At some point, that wind will pick up and hopefully literally clear the air for us. And hopefully when that happens, those few fires that we have left, which are big though, they're very few, but they're big, firefighters will have control of them before that actually happens. Don't expect any rain for a while. Now, if you really want to see where there's a lot of fire going on, go just to the west of here. Go over to Idaho, up in the mountains. Oh, they have been burning all summer long. There's a lot of fires up there, and they've been dealing with it all summer long. So whatever we're complaining about, we got nothing compared to what they're going through. And it's really not going to break until we get that good winter weather coming down into the area, some good wet, which will happen at some point. At 7:45, I talked to Day Weather Live, and I'll ask him about that. Right now, though, here's your extended forecast. 6:42, Wake Up Wyoming.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming off. We go to the Icebox Ring Campino waiting by. Frank, let's you and I just take a moment here to pick on stupid people if we can.
What?
Well, these would be
have
the
stupid people?
I was watching a sheriff in Florida as the sun was rising and the storm had passed and his town is flooded. And he's asking, why are you out driving around?
I know.
I don't. And we do the same thing here in Wyoming. I told you last year up on Oak Crest, across from the golf course and 20th, that whole area, they had closed that street because the snow was piled so high. There's no way anybody could drive on it. And yet 10 cars got caught at that intersection. And when I finally got a police officer up there to help everybody out because we're trying to dig them out, the officer looked at me and said, but we closed the road.
And people are still out on it.
Yeah, there were barriers there. There were signs. Don't. And yet they all went around. Frank, I don't understand.
You know what? Then those people are on their own.
Yes.
I'll give them that. They're on their own.
Yeah.
Like in Florida, like a friend of mine who lives in Venice, probably they got some major wind damage and flooding, but they hunkered down in their garage.
Yeah.
They got only about 3 inches raining, and they go, the signs and you can't drive anywhere.
No, you
don't.
Can't. Just stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. You don't need to be
Where
out
are you
in
going
this.
to go unless you're?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no power.
Well, in fact, and I know you've done this too. So, okay, here in Wyoming, again, we have a really big winter storm. Snow piles up really high, and I've done this. I wanted to go somewhere that I needed or wanted to be, and I opened up my door. I took a look outside and went,
Pass.
Nope. And shut, as you say, El Paso.
El Paso, yeah.
And I just shut the door and said, I guess I'm just staying inside. Now, some people might turn and say, well, I can handle it. It's not a matter of if you think you can or not. Don't be stupid.
You know, younger people will take that risk.
Yes.
And and when we were younger, we probably did too. Now when we're older.
Yes. I was talking to our friend
Pass.
down the hallway, Drew, about this. There have been some Wyoming storms where I was on twice. I was on the interstate and once on a back highway where the weather did what it was not predicted.
Yeah.
And they closed the highway on me, and I'm on it. And I did not want to ever do that again, which is why I really take a good look at the forecast in advance. And if there's even a chance, and it's not to say I can't handle it, I did, Frank, here I am. But I don't want to because, and I'm just going to toss this out, Frank, because I don't want to be that stupid guy who gets stuck out there, okay?
I'm with you on that one. The regular season for pro rodeo has ended, and the National Finals Rodeo will be in Las Vegas December the 5th through the 14th. 3 cowboys from Wyoming made it to the NFR this year, including Brody Kress out of Hillsdale, right outside of Cheyenne. In the saddle bronc, he is number 5 in the world standings in the bareback and making his 8th consecutive trip to the NFR. Also in the saddle bronc, Brody Wells out of Powell made it to the NFR for the first time. He is in 12th place in the world standings in that event. And in the bareback, Cole Reiner from Buffalo will be in the NFR again. He's 12th in the world standings in the bareback and making his 5th appearance in Vegas. In the baseball playoffs, the New York Mets advanced to the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 win over Philadelphia to win that series 3-1. Mets left fielder and Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo went 0-3 in that game with a walk, but the Mets are in the NLCS for the first time since 2015. Also in the National League, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat San Diego 8-0 on the road, so that best-of-5 series is even at 2 games apiece, and Game 5 will be tomorrow. In the American League playoffs, the New York Yankees over Kansas City on the road 3-2. The Yankees lead that series 2-1, and Game 4 will be tonight at 6 p.m. in KC. And Detroit over Cleveland 3-0. The Tigers lead that series 2-1, and Game 4 will be this afternoon at 4. In 4A high school volleyball from last night, Laramie over Cheyenne South 3-0. Coming up tomorrow, Laramie will be at Thunder Basin, Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East, and Campbell County will be at Cheyenne Central. And in our WildPreps.com high school football poll for this week, Sheridan remains number 1 in 4A, Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, and Natrona 4, Kelly Walsh 5. It's still Star Valley and Cody 1, 2, and 3A, followed by Riverton, Douglas, and Cody. Mountain View and Bighorn still 1, 2, and 2A, followed by Lovell, Cokeville, and Worland. And 1A 9-man, Lingle, Fort Laramie, and Pine Bluff still 1 and 2, followed by Saratoga, Southeast, and Lusk. Finally, in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River number 1, followed by Burlington, and Camet, Meeteetse, and Riverside. That's it in sports.
Okay.
So, I think I'm gonna go to. If I have my plans right, I'm gonna go to Yoder tonight.
Oh, really? What's in Yoder? Oh, no.
Football.
Wait. Chet is in Yoder. Chet listens every single morning and sends me notes from Yoder.
Yeah, you know, Southeast High School is they have a really nice field, but the school is actually on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
So they have to come down the road, get down this little place for the school, got to cross the highway.
You make it sound bad, but we know the size of Yoder.
Right. I will say that, like in Little Snake River High School in Bags, it's the same thing where the school is about a block away from where they play. So they, in uniform, on a dusty road,
walk down there.
There were years that the school districts got, for some odd reason, said, "Oh no, there's too much traffic in Bags, Wyoming, so we'll bus you a whole block and a half."
Okay, wait a second. Now let's examine that for a minute. There's too much traffic in Bags, Wyoming.
So they had to bus them a block and a half.
So what do they consider too much? Because I can show them what traffic looks like.
Well, probably energy trucks and farming trucks, but I think people would see their uniforms are gold and purple.
I think they kind of
Do you
stand
think
out.
you could see them?
I think the trucks would honk and wave at them on the way by.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, okay.
Then after a while, they said, "You know what? You guys can walk."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, traffic in Bags. Then again, these are the same kind of people who they need to go to the convenience store, which is a block up the road, and they'll drive.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. All right, thank you, Frank. Yeah, don't be lazy. Walk to the store. All right, coming up on some local business news time after that. Weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming.
On one.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Despite the smoke, I swear I can see the weekend from here.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
You could have just made it from real horseshoes instead of the entire. All right. Hey, oh, by the way, hey, Chet in Yoder. Yeah, Big Red in Hawk Springs wants you to know that Yoder is overrated and Hawk Springs is better. I'm just talking. What he said.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave. Now, first, I'm going to be beating on this for a long time. I got to tell everybody I'll be doing it all morning long and probably for a couple of years to come. It sounds like a joke. It's not, but it sounds like a joke. Kamala Harris's husband and vice presidential candidate Tim Walz walked into a coffee shop. Sounds like a joke setup, right? But they did. They ordered coffees, and neither of them had their wallets. And so I think it was Waltz's daughter, who's like young college age, who had to step up and pay for them. Typical liberals, honestly. Typical liberals. Don't have their money, somebody else is going to have to pay. Now, out of state for a while, let's go over to Florida, where, of course, the big hurricane hits. And this is something we were talking about yesterday. The big question of the day, there's an entire county there. It's a big county. It's Tampa Bay area. Pinellas County is closed. People who left the county because of the storm, which was a smart idea, will not be allowed back in until they're able to let people back in. I know some of you in Wyoming are thinking, so what? We've closed the entire state before. Usually 2 or 3 times a winter. I know, but this is Pinellas County. It's a big city, and they closed it. That's how hard the storm has hit them. But is the Waffle House open? That's the question. This is what we talked about yesterday. So the story in front of me says, is the Waffle House universally awesome? It's intended, it says, as a irony-free zone when we come to natural disasters. Here's what happens. And FEMA actually uses this. FEMA will look to see, after a big event like a hurricane or something else, is the Waffle House open? And Waffle House actually takes that very seriously. Their locations are good, strong, sturdy buildings, despite all the glass there. And they make sure that not only are they staged with food ready to go, but their staff is safe. So as soon as it's possible, they can open up because they know people need to be fed. And Waffle House does not advertise, by the way. They just take care of their community. So before this hurricane hit, Waffle Houses up and down around the Tampa Bay area closed. Now that, they're expecting a bad storm when Waffle House is closed. And you might think I'm kidding, but I'm not. Now that the storm has passed, the sun is just starting to shine and people are stepping outside to assess the damage. And I still don't know exactly what the damage is yet. I'm watching the television next to me and I'm just getting an idea. But my first question is going to be, yes, but is Waffle House open? And as soon as I find out, in fact, let me try this here. Okay, I'm just typing in Waffle House Tampa. And let's see here. They actually did have reporters out there in the Tampa Bay area going around to Waffle Houses, asking them if they will be open or closed. And they didn't know. No, all it says is open 24 hours. There's 3 of them in Tampa itself, and they all just say open 24 hours. It doesn't say whether they're exactly open now or not because of the storm. They haven't updated anything. I will let you know. Now, next. So we've been picking on FEMA, which we should, because FEMA, when it comes to natural disasters, first time I really noticed it, I had noticed it before, but the first time I really noticed it was Hurricane Katrina. That goes back a ways, right? And what a horrible job they did with Hurricane Katrina. And people died because of FEMA. And how much money they wasted on temporary trailer homes for people that never were put into use. And they end up having to destroy them because they eventually got moldy down there. All right, well, story I have in front of me. FEMA is spending billions a year on decades-old disasters. The story says Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is still spending billions of dollars on storms that happened more than a decade ago, including Hurricane Katrina, also Rita and Wilma, other hurricanes that occurred in 2005. The long-term projects use money from the Disaster Relief Fund as the agency manages more than 100 active disaster declarations. FEMA's most recent Disaster Relief Fund, reported to Congress, reveals that in 2024, the agency spent $53 billion with a B on 2005 hurricane season, on the 2005 hurricane season. $375 million on Superstorm Sandy, which, by the way, there was no Superstorm Sandy. It was just Sandy. It was, when it hit land, it was a tropical storm. It ran into a nor'easter. The two storms stalled each other out and just sat there. It was not a superstorm. That's media hype. And see, that was back in 2012. They spent $12.5 billion on Hurricane Maria, which devastated Puerto Rico back in 2017. They're still spending that money, by the way. They're still spending that money today. There were billions more spent on wildfires, winter storms, floods. In total, FEMA spent about $47 billion in fiscal year 2024 on approximately 35 disasters that happened years ago. The money is spent on public assistance, individual assistance, administration, mitigation of future events. A 2023 FEMA report outlined why it has disaster readiness and support accounts within a disaster relief fund. The DRS fund, as they call it, enables FEMA to be more productive and to provide a robust readiness, they say, for long-scale complex disasters. Yada, yada, blah, blah, word salad. While FEMA spends extraordinary sums of money on disasters dating back 20 years or more, it always keeps a reserve so it can handle rescues ongoing, like now. Yes, but they just recently ran out of money because they were spending a bunch of money on illegal immigration and not waiting to see if we needed something. So when a disaster like what happened in Appalachian Mountains occurred, as you know, they didn't have any money. Quote, the biggest tool we have is what we call immediate needs funding, and we keep a reserve within our disaster relief fund to make sure that we can always cover these life-saving activities. Well, isn't that just a big steaming pile of buffalo dung? Because, again, we just had a disaster, and they didn't have any money. So we know that's not true. In fact, last August, they said they had approximately $8 billion in spending on previous disasters to ensure the agency has the money it needs for the hurricanes. And look about how that's worded, by the way. They pause approximately $8 billion in spending to ensure the agency had money for current hurricane season, and yet they're out of money. So how did that work out? Congress then gave permission to use $20 billion from fiscal year 2025 funding. So that's taken from next year, which they used to respond to Hurricane Helene and reimburse communities. Let's see, quote, I have over 100 open disasters across the United States for recovery, and I need to continue to be able to reimburse these communities. Okay. They also put $9 billion in a supplemental fund request for Congress earlier this year. It would be nice, though. At what point do they turn off the spigot to earlier disasters? At what point do they turn off the money for earlier disasters, honestly? I mean, we're still paying on Hurricane Katrina? Morning, Bunny. Bunny just sent me a text. Aloha, howdy, Glenn. Now I want a waffle. You see, okay, look. Wyoming needs Waffle Houses. The closest Waffle House to Wyoming is down in Colorado. Why does Colorado get a Waffle House and we don't? If any state needs Waffle Houses, it's Wyoming. We need one in Cheyenne. A Laramie one would be good. Definitely need one in Casper and Gillette. And we can go ahead and let Sheridan and Buffalo fight over one. Now, as we go more east, Rawlins, Rock Springs. Cody could do. I don't know if Cody wants a Waffle House. I know Jackson Hole doesn't need a Waffle House. They definitely don't. Lander, you guys want to? I don't think Lander needs a Waffle House. But there's other towns out there that I'm sure would absolutely love one. Okay, so we have a little bit of a fight going on here. Let me see. Big Red in Hawk Springs said to Chet and Yoder is overrated, Hawk Springs is better. They're talking football. They have a game coming up. To which Chet said, Big Red sounds like a Cornhusker. 7:17's the time. Wake up.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
To help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
$7:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So, Mike in Lee, South Dakota. Morning, Mike. He said, so I was just talking about FEMA, how FEMA's wasted so much money. And they're still spending money on disasters that happened 20, 25 years ago. They're still currently spending money on those things. When does that get turned off? So Mike says, the fiscal year we started October, they had money. Okay. I think FEMA should be audited along with, can you imagine if we went through every federal government agency and did a serious audit of the agency, a serious audit, and did it very publicly, and make sure that when we find things that people should be jailed for, they go to jail. Wow, would that change a lot, wouldn't it? But the moment you turn to any government agency and say, we're going to audit you, oh, yeah, they don't like the sound of that, and a lot of things start getting hidden right away. That's Panicville for them. All right, back to Wyoming here. Natrona County finally claims a road it had maintained for decades. Remember that road? For those who are familiar, if you go up Casper Mountain on the paved road, up the north side of the mountain, then you head on down the south side. And that's where you get into these gravel roads and so on. Well, there's one road there, which I've taken, that goes right through a ranch. Now, there's been some dispute for a while because the road is technically owned by the ranch. But for a very long time, that road has been there being used by the general public. And it was okay, and the county maintained it. And that was perfectly okay. Until people started to abuse it, including leaving trash around, trespassing onto the ranch property, and so on. So the ranch shut down the road, which the county said, you can't do that. That's a throughway. So that's where the dispute started. Here's the latest Cowboy State Daily. A back-and-forth debate with Natrona County and private landowner on the backside of Casper Mountain over the ownership of a well-used road has finally been settled. After decades of maintaining County Road 505, well, not actually owning it, the county has finally jumped through the legal hoops to claim the road. County Commission voted 4-0 Wednesday to order the establishment of a road known as Circle Drive following a 4-hour hearing. The court-like hearing in Commission chambers included a hearing officer, attorney, records were written, sworn testimony, stuff like that. The hearing and establishment of the road was uncontested by the Natrona County rancher, its owner, who initially challenged the county's ownership of the road earlier this year. And again, even at one point, they had blocked the road. So Attorney William Hersher Laramie County outlined Wyoming's law that would allow the county to establish the road as it was through the legal prescription process. In other words, over a period of time, it was the county that was maintaining that road. And the owner did nothing to it. And so after a period of time, who actually owns that road? It's to me, in my mind, much like homesteading, when someone settles on a property and stays there for, let's say, 20 years, taking care of the property, and the owner never showed up. Well, after 20 years of taking care of the property, who should really own the property is the argument that they have. The hearing included testimony from the Natrona County Road and Bridge Superintendent and a survey of Casper Mountain residents who also Well, also the director of the Bureau of Land Management was there as well. So the clients, it says, never wanted a fight. During public comment, the attorneys for John Masterson, representing the family whose land it was on, apologized to the commission for the way the conflict played out. Quote, despite what may have been portrayed in various forms in the media or perceived by the county, they never really wanted to fight. They know the importance of Circle Drive and the construction that is used for the road. Everything that took place between the Woodburys and the county can only be described as profoundly unfortunate. So things kind of escalated out of control. Okay. In July, the Woodburys had blocked that portion of the 13.5-mile road on their property line, and I do think that they had some good reason to. When you take a look at the way people who were riding through the area were abusing the privilege of riding across what essentially was the rancher's land, and what the family wanted to do was, well, how about showing a little bit more respect for the road and the ranch that's there instead of abusing it, especially to me, trespassing is one thing. Leaving garbage, bad enough. There were problems. So we'll see if those problems get solved, and I'm glad they finally just decided without a fight, okay, county, fine, you can just have the road. There's a lot of roads that go through ranches. That's okay. Many times, and you've done it too, driven down a Wyoming back road somewhere, and you can see by the signs, stay on the road, you're on county property. Step off the road, even by 3/4 of a millimeter, and you're now on private property. Just so you know, and they would rather you didn't. Stay on the road, please. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. That's news time after news time. Update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. I've been chatting here with Don Day from Day Weather. He's been out of state, but he wants to get on the air and chat with us at 7:45 about weather conditions in Wyoming. So it'll be an out-of-state call, but don't worry. We have this fancy thing called the interweb, that all the kids are bragging about these days and playing with. So we'll contact them through that. I'm sure it's just a passing fad, this whole internet thing. It'll go away anytime soon. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
On WhatsApp. Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Real quick here, let me go through. Do have a couple of guests coming up for you this hour. Let's see. There we go. I do have a guest at 8:06. Author David Bush has a new book out, mystery book. Wanted to come on the program, talked about it. I said, okay, fine, because it looks like a pretty good book. So we'll talk to him real quick. Other than that, it's you and me. So a plan this has been a big controversy at the Wyoming Capitol for a while, to allow concealed carry in the Capitol. And a big part of the debate is there are those who look at it and say, well, I don't want guns in the Capitol. But the other side of that is, well, you keep the honest people from carrying guns, but a dishonest person will smuggle one in. Now you got a problem with no one able to shoot back, except maybe a couple of police officers who are on patrol there, but the citizens should be allowed to defend themselves. One of the arguments that I did like that was made on this program is, if you're not going to let me carry a gun, then it is on you to defend me. So you better defend me, because if I'm shot at and I survive it, I'm coming after you for not defending me. I think that's a pretty good argument, or allow me to defend myself. Here's the latest, again, a Cowboy State Daily story. Plan for concealed carry in some areas of the Wyoming Capitol. Get the green light. So now this depends if you're confused about why some areas. And this is because there's different areas of the Capitol building controlled by different parts of our government. The governor controls this part. The legislators control that part. That kind of a thing. I know it's a little weird, but that's the way it works. So here's the story.
If it holds up, it says, people will be able to conceal carry firearms in some areas of the Wyoming Capitol under a current draft rule passed Wednesday by the State Building Commission. The rule was proposed by the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Megan Dengenfelder. I'm always worried I'm saying her name wrong. And the State Auditor, Christy Racinas. And would allow concealed carry of firearms in certain parts of the Wyoming Capitol complex. People are not allowed to conceal carry firearms in any part of the Capitol. So you're going to have to watch if this goes through where they have a sign up and don't. The state's top 5 elected officials who make up the board, Governor Mark Gordon, Secretary of State Chuck Gray, those two do not get along. Our school marm, Delvin Finger, Christy Racina, State Treasurer, and Kurt Meyer unanimously approved the draft rule that allows unlimited concealed carry in parts of the Capitol that they have jurisdiction over. So it's just a matter of who has jurisdiction where. Quote, the Second Amendment is exceptionally clear. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And this includes our people's house, said our school marm. I am proud of the amendment Auditor Racinas and I brought forward. The rule would allow concealed carry of firearms by all citizens on certain areas of state property, regardless of whether they have a concealed carry permit or not. This aligns with the current Wyoming law for concealed carry in public spaces that aren't gun-free zones. And this, for those who might be a little new to the state of Wyoming listening to this, here's how it works. And a lot of states are doing this, so it makes sense. If you are a law-abiding citizen, you don't need a permit. You can buy what you want, and you can carry it the way you want to carry it. Go ahead. I think the reason they're doing concealed carry here especially is, and I don't know about open carry, but I know concealed carry. It's just so you don't see someone walk around with some big old thing on their hip. I don't know. I'll have to see what the open carry thing is. I don't think they're allowing open carry, but you can conceal it. And you don't need a permit. If you want to, you can. Because you're a law-abiding citizen. Do what you want. Now, if you're someone who has gotten in trouble with the law, you may have had some of your privileges as a citizen taken away because you have shown, that you're not a responsible person. Therefore, we take some privileges away. Racinas told Cowboy Say Daily that although the rule may not be as extensive as people like, or even Chuck Gray may have liked, but it's an important first step in the process, she said. So this is why I was saying, little by little, the pro-gun crowd is winning this, and that's the next step. So now we'll have to find out if they do it the rest of the way. And this deal isn't done. I mean, obviously it isn't done. As we get into our next legislative session, I think the rule will be in play in the next legislative session. Not sure. All right, I've been talking with Don Day. He's out of state, but he wants to talk to you guys about the weather, so he's coming up next, 7:42. Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. Before we get into the weather, Don, where have you been? Doing what?
I am in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the balloon fiesta, the 52nd balloon fiesta. And they have a weather team of about 4 people, and they were a person short this year. So they needed a volunteer to come and help out because it's certainly a team effort.
Yeah. Now, by the way, that's properly pronounced Albuquerque. I know that because my childhood hero Bugs Bunny pronounced it that way. So
should have taken the left turn.
That's exactly yes. All right. Now let's take a look at where we are. While you've been gone, I suppose you know Wyoming just continues to fill up with smoke because there has not been a whole lot of wind to push it out. Now it is this morning actually looks a little bit better than the past few days, but mostly the fires keep producing it and it's not going anywhere.
No, it's not going anywhere, but we see things starting to move along now. And let's use Hurricane Milton kind of as an example of the log in the river. That's kind of one of the situations that's been jamming things up. As it moves out into the Atlantic, we're going to start to see subtle changes in the jet stream pattern across North America that will lead to other changes. So we're slow rolling the change, but it's coming, and it really starts with Milton.
Okay.
So once the thing is we'll start to get more wind, which is what we don't want to see as we get closer and into the weekend and early next week. But wind means a change, and that change will be by a week from today, a change to colder weather, and hopefully some precipitation by next Thursday night and Friday.
Okay.
So changes are coming, but we've got to wait a little longer.
I don't mind the colder weather coming in. That just sounds absolutely fine. And if it gets a little breezy, that's okay too. But I'm still waiting on that rain to come in. What breaks that one open?
Well, what we are going to see is the air mass coming in late next week and next weekend is coming off the Pacific. So not only is it bringing in colder air out of Alaska, but it's going to have high humidity air with it. And this is especially true for the high country, which is what we want. The fires right now are in the mountains, most of them. And so they have a really good chance of getting rain, then snow. So the source region of the air coming in with the system should be moist.
Right.
Now, the plains, we'll see. I think the plains have a chance of moisture as well. But let's kind of wait till we get closer to see how that pans out.
This reminds me of, especially up in the Bighorns and over in Togety Pass. Remember a few years ago we had a fire raging up in Snowy Range, big one, and nothing couldn't put it out until suddenly we got a massive snowstorm that just...
Yeah, and you know when that happened? Right around October 20th.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So same situation.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Have fun, Don. Talk to you probably tomorrow. Well, he's having a great time with balloons because if you didn't know, Don Day is a balloonist himself. This time he's not doing the balloon thing, no. What he's doing is just doing weather reports for the balloon thing, which he volunteered to do. Off to the icebox we go.
Wasn't there a balloon down there that hit a power line and knocked out all the electricity for thousands of people?
I'll have to look
I think
that
like
up.
in the last 5-6 days.
Yeah, okay. I'll ask him about that tomorrow. That sounds okay. Now, did I hear you right? Is Hawk Springs playing Yoder?
No, Southeast is playing Yoder.
Southeast is okay.
No.
No,
Lingo Fort Laramie is playing Southeast in Yoder.
Because I'm a little confused here. We have this big rivalry going here. Let's say, there are people who are picking on Chet from Yoder, and they're going through me to do it.
No. You're just the referee.
I'm just, okay. And Yoder, I don't want to go through all of this. Back and forth they go with the kind of razzing that sports fans give each other all the time.
Yeah. This should be a really good game. Lingo Fort Laramie against Southeast. I mean, they're not that far apart. You know what I mean? They're right down over there and right down over here.
So basically, they could walk to see each other.
Well, I wouldn't say walk, but it's a quick drive, and with the best rivalries in sports are one. It's geographical proximity, long history of competing, similar goals of what you want to accomplish. And sometimes mutual hatred.
Right. Now, am I correct that the hatred part is not, real hatred? It's more like rivalry hatred. Like you don't actually hate these people.
Well, like Wyoming and Colorado State.
Yeah.
In football, and they don't like each other.
Okay.
Why would they?
Right. But is it a personal thing?
That's not a personal thing. It's just it's a pride thing. But there's let's put it this way.
Yeah.
They don't like each other.
They don't like each other. Okay.
The Wyoming CSU, we know that. Yeah. Now, the other schools, I don't think it's nearly as sharp.
Right.
It's but rivalries are rivalries, and and enjoy it. Like coming up on Friday in Casper, there's the Oil Bowl football game. Friday in Cheyenne, the Capital Bowl, East and Central. You kind of just
a big rivalry there. Because I can honestly tell you that I do know some people in Wyoming that just hate Colorado, and everybody down there.
Why?
I don't know, but my God, they hate.
They got a lot of cool stuff down there.
They
and
really do.
And the weather is better.
Yes, right. But you can keep the hippies. I'm just saying.
Oh, I like hippies. They're all good. Well, the regular season for pro rodeo has ended, and the National Finals rodeo will be in Las Vegas from December the 5th through the 14th. 3 cowboys from Wyoming made it to the NFR this year, including Brody Kress out of Hillsdale in the Saddle Bronc. The Cheyenne East High School grad is 5th in the world standings in the bareback and will be making his 8th straight appearance in the National Finals. Also in the Saddle Bronc, Brody Wells out of Powell made it to the NFR for the first time. He's 12th in the world standings in that event. And the bareback Cole Reiner from Buffalo will be in the NFR again. He's 12th in the world standings of the bareback. And Reiner will be making his 5th appearance in the NFR. In the baseball playoffs, the New York Mets advanced to the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 win over Philadelphia, winning that series 3-1. Mets left fielder and Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo went over 3 in that game with a walk, but the Mets are in the NLCS for the first time since 2015. In the National League, also, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat San Diego last night 8-0, so that best-of-5 series is even at 2 games apiece, and Game 5 will be on Friday. In the American League Baseball playoffs, the New York Yankees nipped Kansas City 3-2, so the Yankees lead that series 2-1 with Game 4 tonight at 6 p.m., and Detroit beat Cleveland 3-0, so the Tigers lead that best-of-5 series 2-1, and Game 4 will be this afternoon at 4. For a high school volleyball from last night, Laramie over Cheyenne South 3-0. Tomorrow, Laramie will be at Thunder Basin, Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East, and Campbell County will be at Cheyenne Central. And our latest WildPreps.com high school football poll is out. Sheridan remains number 1 in 4A, Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, and Natrona 4, and Kelly Walls 5. In 3A, Star Valley and Cody remain 1-2, followed by Riverton, Douglas, and Cody. Mountain View and Bighorn still 1-2 and 2A, with Lovell 3rd, Cokeville 4th, and Worland 5th. And 1A 9-man, Lingo Fort, Laramie, and Pine Bluff still 1 and 2, followed by Saratoga, Southeast, and Lusk. Following in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River still number 1, with Burlington 2nd, Encampment 3rd, Meeteetse 4th, and Riverside 5th. And that's it in sports.
So you think UW has it this weekend?
Well, they're playing San Diego State, and they should win, yes.
Okay.
San Diego State isn't very good.
Yes.
Well, Wyoming isn't very good either.
Yeah,
but Wyoming playing at home, they had some time off.
Yeah.
You know, they got some guys hurt. They should be able to handle these guys, you would hope. I mean, obviously there's teams that were still on Wyoming's schedule that they're going to have enormous difficulty with, naming Boise State and UNLV. But these guys you should beat.
Okay.
Show some poise.
You heard Frank's doing there? He's actually lecturing you guys, okay?
You can win this.
You can win this, yeah. In other words, there's no excuse.
There's no excuse not to beat these guys.
Has spoken.
Yeah, there's no excuse not to beat these guys. They're not world beaters by any stretch.
Right. All right.
They're ripe for picking.
So pick them like you would your nose.
Ripe for picking.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. I guess ripe for picking is not, because you don't pick your nose when it's ripe, do you? Do you? I do it when it's crusty, but that's a whole nother story. All right, coming up on some local business we have to take care of, and then news time. National, local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. I do have quickly a guest at the beginning of next hour. David A. Bush is a Wyoming writer who wants to talk about his latest novels. If you like good mysteries, he wrote a mystery book where you need to solve it because he's not going to help. And he'll talk to us about that at 8:06 when we get back into news, weather, and open phones. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
On
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Thursday, and I swear I can see the weekend from, well, despite the smoke in some areas. Trust me, I got it. It's in sight.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
You could have just made it from real horseshoes. All right, so if you're someone who likes reading and you like a good mystery, you especially like the kind where the small-town Wyoming sheriff has to deal with the big-time FBI, and that means a lot of mistrust going on, then you ought to like this book from David Bush called Project Glowing Waters, and David is on the phone with me right now. Hope you've been well. This looks like an interesting book. I'm about a third into it, so I got a long way to go.
Well, thank you, Glenn, and thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
I appreciate what you do.
So now this book, it looks to me like we do have a lot of elements that people would like because there is that small town in Wyoming with the sheriff. But then we start getting, when the FBI shows up, that usually means we got big feds in a small town, and people out here don't usually like that.
Yeah, true. And tried to write this book with a wide audience in mind. You have a wide range of ages. Cooper's got a high school daughter and a college daughter, and Cooper himself. They're all dealing with some romance issues, and then you bring in the FBI that complicates Cooper's trying to solve the case of these missing tractors. So, I was trying to engage a good, wide readership here in Platte County and Wheatland and Wyoming in general.
This is interesting that it's not a missing persons case; it's a missing tractors case.
Yeah. And I don't want to spoil anything, but there might be some missing persons coming up.
Yeah, okay. Don't want to toss too much into there. Why the name Project Glowing Waters? Because right away I think of a nuclear power plant when I read that.
Oh, that's a great question. The book originally had a different name, and then my beta readers came back and suggested using something a little more mysterious.
Right.
And the Project Glowing Waters is specifically tied into something the FBI agent is working on. And Sheriff Cooper is aware of it also, but it's a top secret subject, and no one's supposed to know about it. So it causes even more conflict between the sheriff and the FBI. I better not say anything else.
No, I understand, because I get the idea that we're supposed to solve this one ourselves. You're leaving all of these breadcrumbs out here. You're leading me down the path. You're suckering me. Now, see, while you're doing this, I also notice, though, that you're talking about places, Platte County, Wheatland. Are you from there?
I'm in Wheatland right now.
Okay.
And, it's a really good question, kind of leading into future books. I'm trying to figure out if I should jump from town to town in Wyoming, maybe even write a book for each town in Wyoming. I don't know how many that would be, though. I might not live that long. But if I keep the next books in Wheatland, I'm kind of concerned there may not be anyone alive here after 3 or 4 more books.
Well, and the next thing is, are you basing your characters, even loosely, on people you know?
Yes, that's true. And I did have the pleasure of sitting down with a former Platte County sheriff and just picking his brain with 1,000 questions. I can't say that I based Sheriff Wayne Cooper on him, but he certainly helped me just understand that world.
Did you base some of the mystery on actual events?
I did not, but I actually had a reader that called me and said that something like this actually happened back in the Northeast with stolen tractors hidden under hay. I think it was. I think I might have given something away there. Sorry, Glenn.
But stolen think of it this way. So, but did you come up with the idea of the stolen tractors and then found out that happened, or you found out it happened and you wrote it into your book?
I came up with the idea, and then someone told me it happened.
Oh, okay. All right. See, I know that one because I wrote a ghost story, and after I got done with the ghost story, in Savannah, Georgia is where it takes place. Then people who lived in Savannah said, so did you know these people? Because this happened here. And that's creepy. That's really a creepy thing. Okay, now, how long did it take you? Because it's a pretty good size. I mean, it's not War and Peace, folks, but it's a pretty good-sized book. How long did it take you to put all this together?
Thanks. It took me a couple years, stopping and starting. I was working on different books, and in between a series that I'm writing, I just decided to polish this one up and get it out there. And so a couple years.
Okay. So there's the next hard part is where can people find it? Because there's not much for bookstores around anymore. Both you and I know that as authors, so we have to find places where we can put them out. And I know they can get this thing online.
Correct. They are on Amazon. We do have a great bookstore, coffee shop here in Wheatland called The Wanderer on Gilchrist that's carrying them.
Okay.
And Wind City Books in Casper and Barnes & Noble in Cheyenne have agreed to carry some. I'm not sure if they have any in yet, but I haven't made it around to different bookstores yet, but I know these 3 will be carrying them.
Okay. You're looking for the book Project Glowing Waters. That's Project Glowing Waters. And again, at those locations that he mentions there in Casper, Wheatland, head on down to Cheyenne, which, by the way, I've been in that new Barnes & Noble store. And I know it's smaller, but I like it better than the original one. I think it looks, except it needs a coffee shop in there. Other than that, it's a really great story. David Bush is the name of the author. So if you go online to Amazon, you type in David Bush, and Project Glowing Waters ought to pop up. Are there other books out there by you?
Yes, I do have 3 books in a different genre completely. It's a Christian fiction series set 1,000 years in the future.
Okay.
This Project Glowing Waters and other mystery books. It's just a totally different genre that I'm enjoying being creative in.
Okay.
And hope to continue that also.
Okay. Is there a website with your name on it that people can find out more?
Sure. It's davidabusauthor.webador.com.
Okay. davidabusauthor.webador.com. And again, go to your local stores there and ask for Project Glowing Waters. All right. Thank you for coming on this morning, David. I am enjoying the book, and I'm going to be interested to find out what I'm supposed to do when I get to the end of it, because it doesn't sound like you're giving anything away.
I'm trying not to. Thank you so much for having me on, Glenn.
Absolutely appreciate it. Coming up on 8:14. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, 8:19 is the time, coming up on 8:20. Okay, so I've been holding it off, but I do this every day at this time. Most radio talk shows only give you open phones on Friday. I don't know why or who started it, but you always hear the open phones Friday thing. Well, I give you open phones at some point every day of the week. It is the most dangerous time of the day for me, but I do it anyway because you guys need to vent.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave. All right, strap in and let's do this thing.
888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. I did this at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got to bring it up for those people who come into the program later. This is one of those things where you're going to spend the rest of the day with this in the back of your mind. You're going to chuckle about it. And every now and then, someone's going to ask you why you're smirking, in which case you will delight in telling them this. Now, it starts off sounding like a joke. Kamala Harris's husband and vice presidential candidate Tim Walz walk into a coffee shop. See? Sounds like I'm telling a joke. Then it turns into one. Because they both order their coffees and so on. Neither of them have their wallet on them. Now, these are a couple of ultra liberal guys. So, of course, neither of them are carrying their wallet. Someone's got to pay for the coffees. And, of course, walking into a coffee shop when someone's running for office is always, it's done not because they want coffee, because it's a photo op, of course. Well, the photo op turns into neither of these ultra-old liberals have their wallet. They're going to have somebody else pay for it. So Tim Walz leaves the counter without paying. His daughter, who looks about young college age, steps up and says, I feel exposed right now, she says. And she goes for her money and pays for this thing. So isn't it just very typical? We expect to see this at some point. We know it's like a meme that I saw some time ago. It was Barack Obama and oh, wait a second now. I got distracted there because I said something that made my telephone think I was talking to it, and it was actually answering me. while I was doing this. But anyway, two liberals basically sitting at a coffee shop. Bernie Sanders was the other one. And they were just sitting there staring at each other, waiting to see who was going to pay for their meal. Again, very typical. You expect it. Well, it actually happened for real right here with these two guys. And the young girl had to pay for the two old liberals. What do you expect? All right. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Off to the phones I go. Mills, Wyoming. Hey, Jude.
Hey, good morning. I was just going to visit with you a little more about this proposed solar facility. I'm still going through their 533 pages, and they've got some pictures on that, so people need to open a PDF up and look. Two of the pictures are taken out front of my property out there. And now this is where when you read in their title, AI, artificial intelligence, is doing this. And they're making claims that from the front of my property, you won't see this solar facility. Okay, now I know for a fact, even with my 10-foot berm, you can see my vehicles, at least the tops of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're exaggerating. They go as far out as 16 miles away. Well, who gives a rat's behind 16 miles out, going towards another town? I'm talking about what our surrounding neighbors are going to see, what's going to happen to our Goldeneye Reservoir, what's going to happen to our Casper Creek. A lot of this stuff seems pretty made up, and some of the pictures here is just, they're inaccurate by a long shot because they're not showing anything in their AI about where what it would look like with it in place. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're just pulling pictures and making it look like, well, this is what it'll look like after it's in. Well, I want to see up close personal what it looks like while it's in. You know what I mean?
Let's not forget also the ones that they want to build, which would be east of Cheyenne, and I think also east of, some of the Burns and other communities out there. They want to lead us to believe that the panels will be high enough that cattle can graze under them. So don't worry about the cattle out there or other wildlife, which, of course, you and I know, if the solar panels are shading the ground, we're not going to grow grass for the cattle to feed on.
It's not going to grow anything. In fact, one of the gals, Pam, I think her name was Stacy, but she said that she owns a solar, she's in the solar farm industry. She says when those panels go up, everything underneath of them dies.
Right.
And meaning you don't need any sheep, you don't need any cattle, because there ain't any grass. And it puts the land out of use for at least 5 decades. That's a long damn time. Okay, so it destroys the land. They show the land, but they don't show the panels. They show the front of the place that's next door to me. It used to be like this little, where you could go and get gas and, food and stuff like that, and people have since moved into it. But they're saying you're not going to see it from there. And it's only a quarter of a mile away from me. Sure, you're going to see it. If you look to your left, you're going to see it. So they're misleading in what I'm saying is they're misleading in their proposal about what this is going to look like. And I looked at the side road, Natrona Road, where a lot of people spoke too, and they're saying you won't see it from where. Well, they did every direction except the one that's going to show it.
So,
you know what I mean?
How many panels are they saying they want to put in there?
Pardon?
How many panels do they want to put in?
They're not quite sure.
Okay. That's a huge area, though, so they could do a lot.
2,000 acres, and they're, 6 by 8 panels?
Right.
So you can figure it out. Maybe I'll have to do that.
Okay.
But the point I'm being is that this proposal is very misleading in its photograph or visual, capturing of what it would look like out there, because in none of them do they show the panels.
Right.
Even with their artificial intelligence, So
Yeah. All right,
anyway,
now-
I just thought I'd bring people up to
A
speed on
complete
that.
side note on that, since you were talking about GoldenEye, for those who don't know, if you were to leave the Casper-Natrona County International Airport, if you know where that is, and that's on the extreme, I'd say, north, or let's say west side of Casper Mountain, and head north on Highway 2026 like you're heading towards Shoshone, that's where you get to GoldenEye. And if you've ever been out there, Judy, you might notice occasionally there's some small airplanes up above doing weird maneuvers. Do you know why? This is where, if I go up with my flight instructor for training, that's where we go. That's known as an official practice area.
Really?
Yeah, so
if
if
you crash,
nobody's crashed. Has anyone ever crashed there? No one's ever crashed there. So when you get airplanes up there, so if there's a flight school there at the Casper-Natrona County Airport, but there's also other flight instructors and just in general pilots who need to get up there and do a little bit of a workout now and then to practice skills. And that is designated as an official practice area. So they make sure to go way up high, okay, to give themselves room to recover. And then they just go practicing all sorts of really fun for me maneuvers, Judy. You would be leaning over, heaving into a bag. You wouldn't want to be with me during that. But yeah, if you've ever wondered, if you're ever out there and you hear a bunch of at least one airplane maneuvering up ahead, and it sounds kind of strange what they're doing, that's what that is.
Oh,
okay.
I get that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted people to know that on one of their maps, they've got it 16 miles out, 11 miles out, 12 miles out, anything except for exactly where it's going to be.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Judy.
All right.
Coming up on some local business we got to take care. We're going to roll into news time after that. Open phones continues. By the way, I'm going to bring up as a topic, I hadn't planned this, but I got to do this because I got some messages as people are texting me on the app. What about that rivalry between Wyoming and Colorado? Because we used to pretty much be the same state. We really got along with each other, and a lot has changed. So that's something I'm going to talk about with you guys coming up next. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
If it's happening in Wyoming, it's on Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods from K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS the phone number, 888-97-WOODS, or you can do what a lot of other people are doing, and that's sending me messages off the Wake Up Wyoming app. You do that by downloading the app at your app store, which is free. And then just hit the chat option on the toolbar, which is, by the way, the same way you can go ahead and take a look at old shows by using the on-demand option. And we have all of the old programs that you missed or even missed part of it free. And it's not 4 hours because we get rid of news, sports, weather, things like that. And just get it down to the meat of the program. So if you ever want to catch up on old shows, anytime you want for free using the on-demand option on the Wake Up Wyoming app. And you can start it, stop it, rewind it, share it, whatever you want to do. Okay, so we're having some fun picking on Colorado and the rivalries between sports teams. And I mentioned that there's got to be over the years a bit of not just a rivalry, but even a hatred between Colorado and Wyoming. Now, there was a time. You go back a while. Colorado and Wyoming were pretty much the same state. Neither had a very big population, although Colorado was always a bit bigger in population, but neither had a very big population. Both had their mountains and their mountain communities and their ranchers and so on. Both had small government. The culture of both Wyoming and Colorado were pretty much the same culture. Both states are just square. So there was really no rivalry. We were pretty much the same state. Then things began to change. So R.H., who's in Wiggins, Colorado, who listens to this program and sends me texts on occasion, said, Glenn, I know many in Wyoming hate so much about Colorado, and I don't blame them. It is because our legislator is over-regulating and overtaxing this state, which is turning into a California-like cesspool. Masses of virtue-signaling voters up and down the range are causing this to happen. And the rest of Colorado is very much like our Wyoming neighbors. So, no, I agree with that. In fact, there are, especially when you get out into the Front Range or the prairie land in front of the mountains there are still small towns filled with ranches. And we get calls from them on this program all the time and text messages and so on from people who live in those areas who are still the same old rancher types from way back when. And as Denver continues to sprawl, because let's face it, Denver is the main city, but it is so expensive to live in Denver. And, of course, there's a lot of other things about it, which used to be one of America's great cities. And it's gone the way of places like San Francisco and Los Angeles. So it's just not so great anymore, and that's why I did. There was a time I would have loved to have lived in Denver, and I look at it now and go, I don't even like visiting Denver that much anymore. There are people in Wyoming who were from Colorado, and they just decided enough and got out of there. I know of several people in Cheyenne, business people, that wanted to stay, but their small towns were overrun as Denver continued to expand. And they eventually just couldn't stand it anymore. Again, the rules, the regulations, the property taxes, and then just the lifestyle began to change. And so they moved up to Cheyenne and reopened their businesses in Wyoming. Some even went beyond that because that's what they were used to. That's where they wanted to live. So there are some people who escaped. Now, there is that chain of retail stores. Remember, I started with this band in California. As California got more and more radical left and started banning all sorts of things like certain big screen TVs, gas-powered mowers to mow your lawn and weed eat and stuff like that, and on it went with things they wanted to ban, including trying to ban the internal combustion engine. So I offered the idea of opening up a chain of retail stores called Banned in California. These retail stores would be at the California border all around the state, and anyone who wanted to buy stuff that they were not allowed to buy in California could sneak over the border, buy it, and then they would have illegal immigrants on staff to help them smuggle the goods back in to California. At some point, I realized there was another opportunity to open up the same kind of store for Colorado, because Colorado is going the way of California. We can open one just over the border on the Wyoming side.
Hey there, Colorado. Do you find your state being Californiized? Do you find that you're able to buy less and less of the basic fun and necessities of life? Well, don't worry. It's Wyoming to the rescue with a new retail store right on the Colorado border on I-25 just south of Cheyenne. It's Banned in Colorado. Want to buy a gas-powered lawnmower or weed whacker? Need a new car but prefer the traditional internal combustion engine? Yes, Banned in Colorado has all the products that are either being outpriced, regulated, or no longer for sale inside the Colorado border. And you'll love our low tobacco prices. Feel free to walk around and smoke inside while the little lady buys her fur coat. You'll love our unlimited supply of assault weapons and ammunition. Carry all your goods out of the store in plastic bags. Yes, Banned in Colorado has a new location 1 mile north of the Colorado border on I-25. For your personal safety and protection, Banned in Colorado is not a gun-free zone. Illegal immigrants on staff to help you sneak back across the border with everything you purchased.
One other thing that we have, and I often don't get a chance to play these. I should get back in touch with them again. But there is a group out there called Colorado Grassroots. Yeah, Colorado Grassroots is exactly, it's a grassroots, but it's also, grassroots. Right. And they, for the longest time, were calling this program with their daily updates and commentary.
The following is a paid political announcement from Colorado Grassroots.
So, an important topic these days is cultural appropriation. And I don't think it's right, appropriating cultures, of other people. Because, when I go to the doctor and I'm not feeling well, he takes those cultures, and other people shouldn't have those. It's none of their business if I'm sick. So, appropriating other people's cultures is against the law or something. So, don't appropriate sick people's cultures.
So you understand that they're not exactly all there, but they're stoned most of the time. Also, there's a big rivalry between. Well, I know a lot of people in Wyoming want to root for Colorado's teams because we don't have, except for UW, we don't really have any professional teams in Wyoming. So you take a look at the Colorado Rockies and teams like that, and you want to root for them. Unfortunately, those teams suck. Well, thanks to Pantload, Colorado, you could at least provide us with some teams that were good, that we could be proud of. But you can't even do that right either. Oh, by the way, they're trying to take over health care in Colorado, too.
The following is a paid political announcement from Colorado grassroots Democrats.
So healthcare's important? I don't know much about it, but I do know when I get sick, my mom takes me to the hospital, right? So why can't people just have their moms take them to the hospital? You know, that works. Or my mom could take you to the hospital. She's got a minivan. And it has a DVD player in there so you could like watch stuff while you go. Yeah.
Colorado grassroots Democrats reminding you that you were supposed to show up somewhere on Election Day. If you remember that you were supposed to be doing something or whatever.
Hey, Mom, we gotta go to the hospital.
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, Frank, you know, as you head out on Highway 26 toward Shoshone, you would pass by that old tumble-in sign.
Yeah.
And one day, the sign was taken down. And for those people who don't know, this was a big neon cowboy sign.
And somebody's going to repair it.
Yes, and the guy sort of, the character is sort of a barrel-chested guy,
Right.
cowboy hat, and he's got his thumb pointed toward the tumble-in. Really nice-looking sign. It was falling apart, and for the longest time, I thought, I hope somebody does something with that. So the latest pictures are out on the repair job, and it is looking brand spanking new.
That would be the problem is that the building looks like crap.
Yes. Now,
so they need to put that like. I don't know where you have a brand new sign that's going to look
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Where are you going to put
There's
it
the next
in
thing, and
relation to the?
Yeah, I'm forgetting where they said, but it's not going to go back at the tumble-in.
Thank goodness.
Yes. Well, and that was a landmark for people who drove out there for the longest time, but it's going to be put somewhere else. I think more in the Casper area. I forget the exact location.
I think
but
they have pole dancers out there too.
Oh, they used to. They even have. They're making it neon again, which is really nice to have the neon all lit up like that. Now, as far as the tumble-in itself, at one point it was on that old highway before there was such a thing as interstates. That was a great steakhouse, and it was a hotel or motel.
Yeah. Now it's dilapidated.
Yes, dilapidated. And before, somewhere in between, it became a place of ill repute. I remember, seem to remember. That, like you said, you can go out there and get a pole dance if that's what you wanted, or who knows what else, because it really went downhill for a while, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, it depends what your
definition of
frame
downhill is. Yeah, it's okay. So, no, you're right. It is just falling apart, and I guess it will continue to because no one really wants to do anything with it anymore. So, but the sign, that old tumble-in sign, it is looking really good, and at some point they're going to put that thing back up. And I'm looking forward to that happening.
I think they would look great somewhere.
Oh, it's definitely going to go somewhere where people can see it.
Or build a new tumble-in place somewhere.
Okay.
Then you already have the sign.
Oh, yeah, if somebody wants to do that. Now, you understand how much money that's going to take, Frank?
No, I don't.
Yeah, well, you don't because you'll never have that much money.
No,
not at all.
Not at all. All right, the regular season for pro rodeo has ended. The national finals rodeo will be in Las Vegas from December the 5th through the 14th. 3 cowboys from Wyoming made it to the NFR this year, including Cheyenne East High School grad Brody Kress out of Hillsdale in the Saddle Bronc. He is 5th in the world standings in that event and will be making his 8th straight appearance in the national finals. Also in the Saddle Bronc, Brody Wells out of Powell made it to the NFR for the first time. He is 12th in the world standings in that event. In the bareback, Cole Reiner from Buffalo will be in the NFR again. He's 12th in the world standings of the bareback, and will be making his 5th straight appearance in Vegas. In the baseball playoffs, the New York Mets advanced to the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Mets left fielder and Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo went 0-for-3 in that game with a walk, but the Mets are in the NLCS for the first time since 2015. Also in the National League, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat San Diego 8-0, so that best-of-5 series is even at 2 games apiece, and Game 5 will be on Friday. In the American League playoffs, the New York Yankees nipped Kansas City on the road 3-2. The Yankees lead that series 2-1, with Game 4 tonight at 6 p.m., and Detroit beat Cleveland 3-0, so the Tigers lead that series 2-1, and Game 4 will be this afternoon at 4. In 4A high school volleyball from last night, and Laramie over Cheyenne South 3-0. Tomorrow, Laramie will be at Thunder Basin, Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East, and Campbell County will be at Cheyenne Central. And our latest WyoPreps.com high school football poll is out. Sheridan remains number 1 in 4A, Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, and Natrona 4, Kelly Walsh 5. In 3A, Star Valley and Cody 1-2 again, followed by Riverton, Douglas, and Torrington, and Cody, Mountain View, and Bighorn are 1-2 with in 2A with Lovell 3rd, Cokeville 4th, and Worland 5th. In 1A 9-man, Lingle, Fort Laramie, and Pine Bluffs are still 1-2, followed by Saratoga, Southeast, and Lusk. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River number 1, followed by Burlington, Encampment, Meeteetse, and Riverside.
And you're going to go all the way to Yoder.
Yeah,
watch
I'll be there and back, yeah. It's easy.
Oh, it's not a hard drive at all. It's just that Yoder, as you're heading toward it, don't blink.
Well, no, you can take the little bypass that's right outside of Lingle for Laramie, one of the two, or go to Torrington, then cut across.
Yeah, right.
You can see this big sugar thing.
That's it, yeah.
Just go right over there.
That big sugar thing is their skyscraper. That's about all they have.
And then you make it,
yeah.
if you're going on this little cut through, then you make a right, then there's another right, and then you're right there.
And I did one time, I haven't driven through there yet, although Chet texts me every day during the show for that. I did zoom in, correct me if I'm wrong, their downtown area is gravel road.
For the most part, some of it,
okay. So it gives you an idea. You're in a Wyoming town when Main Street is gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have that.
Yeah, it's an ag community to the max.
Yeah, I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying, and that's a small Wyoming town for you.
Love it.
And their local football team walks down the block to the stadium.
Yep, and across the road.
And across the road.
And then rings the big bell that they have.
Oh, they
there.
do? Oh, they ring the bell. Okay. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to deal with. We're going to roll into news time after that, national local update on the weather forecast. After which, besides open phones, I got to pick on the EPA for a while, which, as you know, I always love doing. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Thursday, which means, of course, I can see the weekend from here, not far off.
Today's show is sponsored by Horseshoe Doorstops, made from real horses.
See, you didn't need to use the whole horse. You could have just taken the shoe off, but all right.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
We are in open phones, so 888-97-WOODS the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Real quick before I get into the topic, which you can change it if you want, but I'm going to pick on the EPA for a while. But before I do that, head over and check out a couple of things. First off, we have the elk fire, which is up in Bighorn Mountains, which is causing a lot of the smoke that the state of Wyoming, plus South Dakota, Nebraska, sorry, that was us. That's our fire, sending all that smoke your way. So as you head up into the area, well, there's an explanation point over there. I'll just take a look at that. All right, Highway 14 still closed. So if you're above Sheridan and you head through Ranchester and Dayton, you want to get up and over the Bighorn Mountains, not on 14 you're not, or 14A. And if you're in Lovell or over in the Basin area and you want to get back over the other way, again, you can, Graybull, for example, you can head toward the Bighorns, but once you get to the base of the Bighorns, that's where they've just closed off that road, and that's because of the fire. There's an explanation point. Oh, okay. Above Buffalo, road work, eastbound lane closed for a while while they're doing so. Okay. That's just a construction thing. I was looking for any other closures due to fire, something like that, not in the state of Wyoming right now, so that's good news. Also, these fires, not as contained as we would like to see them right now, and by fires, I also mean head over to Togety Pass. That's a big one that's been given headaches all summer long. That's still going, too. There's 2 fires that emerged into one over there, 60% contained and 87% contained. That's better anyway. And then the one up in the Bighorns, the elk fire, 15% contained. We have some smaller runs around the state of Wyoming. If you want to see how bad it really is, look at one of those maps that give you smoke and fire, show you where things are. Idaho is really looking bad. I mean, especially up in their mountains there. It's just, there's a lot of fires going. That's where a lot of that smoke is coming from. All right, so that's what we're dealing with right now. I will be driving down I-25 later this morning toward Cheyenne. I'm interested. I always stop in there. I stop at the Chugwater Soda Fountain for a burger, then see my friends over at the Mercantile. I'm really interested to see what the fire on the interstate looks like, because there was fires coming down off of the bluffs there, heading right for town. Remember earlier this week we talked about that. Posted a lot of pictures and video of it too. That was put out quickly before it got to the town. So we are so dry right now, those things can pop up real fast for all sorts of different reasons. So thankfully they're being put out real fast too. I did get a chance, it was this Sunday, went flying, and I didn't go very far from home base because it was so smoky up there, it wasn't worth it for one thing. And there's quite a few areas where I went, there's a spot, where little fires had broken out in the grasslands, and they had been put out quickly. But, yeah, they can just pop up. And when they do, man, fire officials are jumping on them fast. On that note, there is a really good story, Cowboy State Daily has it, of a gentleman that's up around the Elk Mountain area. And he has a really nice house that he and his wife spent 30 years building. Nice house, really nice. Beautiful view of the Bighorn, so you can see why they would want to be there. And he was ready for that fire, and so he had staged a bunch of stuff himself. Water in every way he could possibly think of, tanks of water, sprinklers, all sorts of things. And the fire did head right toward his house, and he jumped out there and just started fighting. Now, the fire officials, the Forestry Service did show up and helped him, of course. But he needed to be there watching for that fire, and if he hadn't been there, he would have lost his home. That's a hell of a story to see as well. All right. Let's pick on the EPA for a bit, because it's so easy to do. I always feel lazy picking on the EPA. They're so easy. Story in front of me says the EPA's power plant rule that we have here in Wyoming that was finalized in April regulates carbon emissions in the U.S. electricity sector. Now, this is part of what we're dealing with in Wyoming, which is why the governor and some other people are pushing toward carbon sequestration, in which case I was, as you know, CO2 is not a pollutant. It's not causing climate change. Rather than fighting that, they try to appease the EPA by, look, we're sequestering carbon. We're putting together a carbon sequestration plan here in Wyoming. And the EPA doesn't care, and the BLM doesn't care, and the Biden administration doesn't care. And pseudo-environmentalist groups don't care because they want coal shut down no matter what we do. Sequestering CO2 is not going to appease them. They're still going to shut down these power plants if they can. So, okay. Story says a central piece in the 1,020 pages of rules regarding carbon sequestration. Yes, 1,020 pages. is fitting natural gas and coal-fired power plants with carbon capture technology. While the EPA has insisted the technology is well proven, and I've shown you on this program it's not. Recent court filings show the agency's own modeling doesn't project any carbon capture deployment on new power plants. So Stephen Gorham is an energy researcher, author of Green Breakdown, is not surprised. He says the carbon capture facilities in operation today aren't capturing carbon. Not much, anyway. They're not really making a difference. For those people who worry, thinking that greenhouse gas, et cetera, in the atmosphere, it would take an enormous investment to scale up to make any kind of an impact. So we're spending tons of money on this stuff. I believe the state of Wyoming spent like $25 million. I think that was the number, just within the state, for something that really doesn't capture much. Critics of the rule, the story says, argues the technology hasn't been proven to work at all, really, meaning that under the EPA's mandates, coal plants will retire early and the new gas plants won't be built. As a result, we'll have to rely on wind and solar. And, of course, as you know how unreliable and expensive that turns out to be. So it says carbon capture sequestration either captures the carbon dioxide emissions at the source, such as, it says here from the smokestack, I'm going to correct it, from the steam stack. We stopped with smokestacks a long time ago. It's a steam stack. That's primarily steam. If you go to China, that's a smokestack because they don't filter much of anything. Anyway, you can capture it there, or it sucks the CO2 from the air nearby, a process called direct air capture, which also turned out to be not really effective. And then it pumps them into the ground, and the problem with pumping them into the ground is it's been found it doesn't stay in the ground. It gets out. The EPA hasn't insisted that carbon capture sequestration technology is adequately demonstrated. They do say it is, but when we go to demonstrate it, it isn't. When the rule was published in May, 24 states, led by West Virginia, filed a lawsuit in Court of Appeals in District of Columbia aiming to block the rule while legal challenges played out. Joined into coalition, the National Rural Electric Cooperative, and the rule states, is he facing any immediate harm? Okay, deadline is 2030 to get all of this done. So basically, with the time that we have, it's just not going to get done. It's not going to happen. Now, I've got a lot more to say about this, but I'm running out of time today. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going over to where I keep my notes. Don't look. This is me putting notes in my little note bin over here. Just look away from the radio. Don't pay attention. And this will be something that I'll also write up as a story tomorrow with all of the links and information I have so you can see what's going on, because this greatly affects the state of Wyoming, as even our governor has been pushing for the idea of carbon sequestration, and the state has spent millions on it, and we're really not achieving anything.
In the state of Wyoming, there are highways that need your attention. You can adopt a highway.
A highway just merged with a beautiful little two-lane scenic bypass. And now they have an off-ramp of their very own.
Just make sure Wyoming highways stay clean and well-maintained. Adopt a highway today.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. So I will be heading to Cheyenne because on Thursdays I help out with Thankful Thursday, which is where we go to raise money for a cause. And it's a big party, essentially. Casper has a Thankful Thursday, too, at the same time. We throw a big party and we raise money for a charitable organization. Helping out with that in Casper, I'm mixing my towns up. In Cheyenne, Wyoming, is Alf.
Hey, Cheyenne, here we go again with another Thankful Thursday. We are so excited this week, a brand new nonprofit. We have Hunting with Heroes here. And Jason, first of all, we've been looking forward to this. You guys have been on the waiting list for a long time. We're so excited. The first Thankful Thursday for Hunting for Heroes. Now, first of all, tell us a little bit about our program. I know a lot of this is hunting season, and so we have a lot of people out there thinking about hunting. What are we raising money for tonight at Thankful Thursday?
Well, first off, Al, thank you so much for having us in today. So Hunting with Heroes, our whole purpose is giving back to our nation's disabled veterans by providing hunts within the legal boundaries of the state of Wyoming. That's why we're here.
And that's going to be all happening tonight at the Lincoln Way Event Hall, 3839 East Lincoln Way. You guys come on out, join the fun. Doors open at 4 o'clock. First chance to win $1,000 is at 5 o'clock. Live auction at 6 o'clock. Speaking of live auction, let's get right into the live auction now. Before we went on the air, you guys really went all out. You have a little bit for everyone, don't you?
We certainly do. So let me give a little bit of what we have to offer tonight. So we have 6 total guns that are going to be auctioned off. We have a Saratoga Hot Springs getaway package. We have a bird dog sculpture that's customized by Cole Brockmahler. And we have something for everybody, Alf. I mean, jewelry, home decor, gift baskets, liquor packages, you name it. We have something for everybody.
It's going to be a fun night. That live auction doesn't start till 6 o'clock. So if you're thinking about getting off work and you're going to go home, grab something to eat, and then come on out, I think you have that covered also, don't you?
We certainly do. Please come out. Don't stop home for dinner. Come over to us and have dinner. We have a full chili bar tonight. That's going to be starting at 4:30. So love to have you out and can't wait to see y'all.
Now, it's all going to be at the Lincoln Way Event Hall, 3839 East Lincoln Way. We're located right on the corner of Ridge Road and Lincoln Way. Now, don't forget, doors open at 4 o'clock. You could win $1,000 just for walking in the door, and that live auction starts at 6 o'clock. Now, are we going to have some of our veterans there tonight helping you out?
Absolutely. There'll be a lot of veterans out tonight helping out, and it'll be a mixed crowd, and can't wait to see everybody.
If you've never been to a Thankful Thursday, we start every Thankful Thursday with the Pledge of Allegiance to our country, and tonight's going to be even special when we're doing it for Hunting for Heroes. Come on out and join the fun. It's all at the Lincoln Way Event Hall, 3839 East Lincoln Way. Come on out and join the fun.
Back to the phones we go where Rose is waiting by. Morning, Rose.
Morning, Glenn.
Yes.
You were talking about fires with solar farms?
Yes.
And I've been thinking about that proposed 2,000-acre solar farm out there on 2026, about 20 miles out.
Right.
If they get one solar farm out there, I think it just sets the tone for all of 2026 to Shoshone being a corridor of solar panels.
I can see it.
And you're talking about fires. Well, lithium is a heavy metal, correct?
Right.
And selenium is a heavy metal.
Yeah.
So back when they did the Kendrick project out here, put in the irrigation system for West Casper, the Board of Reclamation made a recommendation that this land not be irrigated because of the selenium concentration, which ends up in the Platte River.
Right.
So I'm failing to wrap my head around this with the big smart government on how one heavy metal is not going to be toxic compared to another one. And then you look at that corridor to Shoshone, and you've got Lost Cabin and Lysite, which happens to have the highest concentration of H2S in Wyoming, that field. If we light that off, what's that going to be?
I don't think they really consider, because this is supposed to be, green technology, Casper, in the area. Well, for all of Wyoming, they want to put in what they call green technology. And Rose, this is not as green as it really gets. Even though coal, natural gas are not perfect, I would consider the way we use them in America to be a whole lot more green than currently wind and solar is when you look at it honestly.
I'd have to agree.
All right. Well, we have a long fight on this, but don't worry, it all goes away when the subsidies run out and the country goes broke. Okay?
Yeah, we can just hold them at bay till then.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. Now, the reason I say that is this wind and solar, one of the reasons that and there's a list of reasons I'm opposed to, but one of the reasons would be is it's heavily subsidized. It is, they tell us it's clean, it's green, it's affordable, it's reliable, it's sustainable. And none of that's true. And if it weren't for the subsidies, none of this would exist. And considering how in debt our nation is, at some point the subsidies run out. That is not an if or a might or a maybe. They do. And when the subsidies run out, these solar farms and wind farms, when it's time to repair them, which is a constant thing, they're not going to be repaired. It's not going to happen. And so we wind up with a bunch of dead standing windmills and solar farms, which is, by the way, it's already happened in other states, which is one of the reasons why in the state of Wyoming, if you want to put a wind or a solar farm up or a natural gas well or an oil well, you have to put money aside. In case the company goes out of business, money has already been set aside for the cleanup. And that includes wind and solar farms as well, which I think at some point we're going to see this. There's a big building boom coming, but there's a big crash later on. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming our way. After local news update on the weather forecast, you and I go back into it again. 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Now, I mentioned this yesterday, but I'm going to go through this again. So Hurricane Milton now hits Florida. I've been watching that on the ridiculously large television they put in my studio here all morning long just to see, as the sun rose, what kind of damage are they talking about. And it depends on where they are. There's some places not much. Other places got hit pretty good. So that's being assessed right now. But all right. As they are working on cleaning this up, let me remind you, things that help people survive. Both this hurricane and the one before it. Gas-powered cars, gas stoves, gas water heaters, gas chainsaws, okay. Also diesel-powered trucks and so on. Because I said, up in the Appalachian Mountains as the cleanup begins, and now in Florida as they start cleaning up again, all of these heavy machines are coming in, and these are diesel and gas-powered. And for people who have electricity right now, they have electricity because they have gas or diesel generators working right now. Things that are useless currently: electric cars, electric appliances, debit and credit cards, city buses, especially if they're electric, and all the tax dollars we send to other countries. That's just some of the things that are completely useless now. All right, on that note, now I'm only going to play part of this for you. This is much longer. Do you follow Prager University? If you don't, it's worth it. Go to Prager University on YouTube. They have great videos, really good educational videos. And they have people talk about subjects that would never make it on any kind of national news anywhere, because we're not supposed to say these things. What I'm going to play, because I don't have time to play it all, is a gentleman who for the longest period, most of his life, was an eco-warrior. And something has changed his mind.
Just because you feel like you're doing the right thing doesn't mean you are. I have dedicated most of my life to protecting the environment, but I went about it in the wrong way. I thought I was acting morally, protecting the well-being of people and the planet. In fact, I was harming both. I believed solar and wind power were the future, our only hope of avoiding an environmental catastrophe. Fossil fuels were the enemy, extracted from the earth by greedy companies plundering the land, polluting the air, and destroying ecosystems. Keeping the wilderness as pristine as possible was my passion. I only took jobs I thought would protect the environment. I started a company that built composting systems for cities and businesses. I served as executive director of an organization that championed green construction policies. And then I became CEO of a consulting firm that worked on making homes more energy efficient. At that time, the Obama administration had earmarked billions of dollars in federal funding to create jobs in the energy sector, and my company won multi-year contracts valued over $60 million. I thought I was making a real difference in the world. I was surrounded by smart, successful, and ambitious people who shared my beliefs and my heartfelt desire to change things. And my company had lots of money and lots of government support. There was only one problem. Our project to build more energy-efficient homes was an utter failure. Making home energy improvements was much too expensive for middle-class families, even with generous government subsidies. Wealthy families, by contrast, loved the program. They got subsidies they didn't need in the environmental cred they craved. In reality, though, we weren't achieving much of anything, except wasting taxpayer money. That's not how the government saw it. The government celebrated the project as a big win. It was a great photo op for politicians, but I knew the program didn't deliver the jobs and energy savings we had promised. Maybe I should have accepted the props and kept doing what I was doing, but I couldn't. I began re-examining everything I'd believed about energy and the environment. It didn't take me long to realize that I had been living in a fantasy world, perfectly fine for making me feel good about myself and my mission, but perfectly useless for making real environmental change. The more research I did, the more I realized that my project was just a symptom of a much bigger problem. We're wasting trillions of dollars on the false hope that wind and solar power are going to replace fossil fuels,
Now,
oil, coal, and natural gas.
He goes on from there for quite a bit. If you want to see the entire video, which is worth watching, he says some things that I disagree with, but that's okay. It's on Prager University where you can watch that. What I appreciate is that here's a guy he's being honest, not just with you and me, but he's being honest with himself. He, for the longest time, worked even with the Obama administration on trying to make sure that homes were energy efficient and et cetera, only to find out they were wasting tons of money on something that didn't work. And when he points out, hey, you're wasting a bunch of money on things that don't work, they don't care. They applaud it as doing something great because it sounds great. It's great television, if you will. Sounds wonderful, but it's not actually fixing anything. So at least he finally broke down and admitted that to himself. And then when he went out to say it publicly, of course, try to get on your legacy media TV stations or news organizations, even like New York and LA Times, things like that. Try to talk to them with this revelation that he's had. And that's where he will be ostracized for saying this. So instead, he goes to Prager University and has a talk with them. They're willing to put the video out, although Prager University has to worry about YouTube because when they see the topic matter, YouTube will want to de-emphasize the video so not that many people can see it. Well, yeah, of course not. You can't let this kind of information out. The guy realized that the emperor has no clothes. You can't say that. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
9:48 is the time. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, I'm about to tell you about something that happened in sports that you have never heard of before.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so I don't know where this is, but it is indoors. So picture like a basketball court indoors, but they set it up for a badminton match.
Okay.
Okay. This is big league badminton, too.
Oh, yeah. Those birdies, it's like 100 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. So here comes this shot that's just knocked up way high. As it's coming down, this young lady's about to smack the thing, but she ends up ducking, dropping to her knees, because before she could swing and get it, and she was about to nail it, a bat flew down and grabbed it out of midair.
Whoa.
Yeah. Right above. Now, if she had swung, she would have hit them both. But she saw it and just kind of curled up into a ball and dropped to the ground and yelled, "That's a bat." And then the video continues. Whoever's got on the camera there did a really good job. They followed the bat all the way back up to the rafters with the birdie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, two things. First off, they now know at this facility they have bats.
And they probably knew that before.
Yeah, but they know it for sure. And they know now where the bats like to go.
They follow the birdie.
Finally, that is going to be one disappointed bat.
The birdie doesn't taste very good.
No, it doesn't. He thought he had dinner I mean, Frank, he really thought that he had made the score here. Look at that bird or whatever it is flying in the air. I'm going to catch it. I'm going to bring it back up. I'm going to have a nice, big, fat dinner here. And he gets up there and starts to peck and poke at it, and he's wondering the whole time, the hell is this? Where's the meat?
Why didn't he drop the birdie back to where he had, and then the lady could have smashed it over the net?
Or like in that old television commercial, where's the beef?
Right.
It's just absolutely not there. Now, that would make me think that the bat would just go, I'm sorry, it was my bad, and then fly down and drop it off so they can continue the game. But, the bat's not going to do that.
I'm assuming this was not in this country.
No. I don't know what country. I don't know where this is. I'm watching this going, it isn't here in America, but still.
I thought maybe it was in the Bat Cave or something.
That would have been really a cool thing to have that happen in the Bat Cave. Now, the final thought that I have, and this is me, as usual, Frank, overthinking things, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the bat learned its lesson?
No, it'll go after the next one, too.
Yeah. So that last one was something not edible, but maybe this next one will be fat.
Well, the next time the bat comes down with the person with the racket, nail the bat.
Now this, that will teach the other bats.
Over the net.
Yeah, that'll teach the other bats. This reminds me of birds who go to golf courses to try to pick up the ball, thinking it's an egg. And they get really mad when you don't let them have their egg.
Right, and then you have to shoo them away and say, no.
Then they sit on that egg.
That's mine.
Yeah, they sit on the egg for how many weeks and it never hatches.
Yeah, that's a tough life for them. Well, the regular season for Pro Rodeo has concluded, and the National Finals Rodeo is next in Las Vegas coming up the first week of December. 3 cowboys from Wyoming made it to the NFR this year, including Cheyenne's grad Brody Kress out of Hillsdale in the Saddle Bronc. He is 5th in the world standings of that event and will be making his 8th straight appearance at the National Finals. Also in the Saddle Bronc, Brody Wells out of Cody made it to the NFR for the first time. He is 12th in the world standings in that event. In the bareback, Cole Reiner from Buffalo will be in the NFR again, and he is 12th in the world standings of the bareback and will be making his 5th straight appearance in the NFR. In the baseball playoffs, more action today. Now, last night, the New York Mets have advanced to the National League Championship Series with a 4-1 win over Philadelphia. Mets left fielder and Cheyenne native Brandon Nimmo went 0-for-3 with a walk, but the Mets are going to the NLCS for the first time since 2015. Also in the National League, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the San Diego Padres 8-0 yesterday, so that best-of-5 series is even at 2 games apiece. Game 5 will be on Friday. In the American League playoffs, the New York Yankees live Kansas City on the road 3-2, so the Yankees lead that series 2-1 with Game 4 tonight. And Detroit beat Cleveland 3-0. The Tigers lead that series 2-1, and Game 4 will be at 4. In 4A high school volleyball from last night, Laramie over Cheyenne South 3-0. And tomorrow, Laramie will be at Thunder Basin, Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East, and Campbell County will be over at Cheyenne Central. Our latest WildPreps.com high school football poll is out. In 4A, Sheridan remains number 1, Campbell County 2, Cheyenne East 3, and Natrona 4, Kelly Walsh 5. In 3A, Star Valley and Cody 1-2, followed by Riverton, Douglas, and Torrington. Mountain View and Bighorn are 1-2 and 2A, with Level 3rd, Cokeville 4th, and Worland 5th. And in 1A, 9-man, Lingleford, Laramie number 1, Pine Bluffs 2, followed by Saratoga, Southeast, and Lusk. And in 1A, 6-man, Little Snake River still number 1, followed by Burlington, Encampment, Matitsi, and Riverside. That's it in sports.
Okay, remind me again, you've explained to me before, but I never pay attention to you, Frank.
I know you don't.
So
I don't pay attention to you.
Yeah, these football polls that they have. Who participates?
The coaches and media.
Okay. All right. Are there any kind of polls where the public gets to participate?
You're not aware? No, not really, no.
Coaches, and where do coaches and media go to vote?
Well, we send them like emails and stuff and say, please respond to this, and then they go.
Now go ahead. So
and they might even actually do it on the Wild Preps app too. I think.
Okay, you think?
But that's a coaches and media thing, and they have a good pulse of what's going on for the most part. So we'll believe them.
Okay,
and you know what? And this poll is all for fun.
It's all for fun, but now how accurate is it?
It's pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is for fun.
It is for fun, just for the fun of it. Okay, I just want.
And our volleyball poll is the same way. It's for fun.
Just have a good time with it. All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National, local update on the weather forecast. Don't forget, this program becomes a podcast shortly after I get off the air. So if you missed anything, you can go back. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.